line can go ahead and introduce yourself and the committee, your agency representative today, your agency that you are representing today, that would be great, all of the members. And then after we hear the members, we will go ahead and have, after the members, we will have a committee. Right here. After the members, we will have any public introduce themselves as well. And I'm sorry if you already said your name. Go ahead and do it again, or you can put it in the chat if that works as well.
This is NAACP. Cassandra Corbin Thaddeus, CPA.
Craig McKenzie, Economic Council, Palm Beach County.
Dr. Gabriela Mendez, Hispanic Education Coalition of Palm Beach County.
Carrie Whittle, Florida Atlantic University, Center for Autism-Related Disabilities.
Robin Jones, FAU card.
You can reach.
And my name is Andre Thaddeus with Connect to Greatness.
Oh, great.
Is this your stuff? One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, way more than 4.
Yep.
Let's go 3. Let's go.
You got
Do you want to go ahead and do something? I think I have way more than.
I changed them all around. Now I can't find anybody.
We got more than a quorum.
Amy, Charmaine.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. We called the meeting to order at 10 a.m. and recessed until we have a quorum. It looked like we have a quorum. We were also resetting the room after the DDEC subcommittee meeting this morning from 9 to 10 a.m. You'll hear a little bit later on about that committee or from the chair of the subcommittee. So it is 10:03 and we are reconvening this DDEC District Diversity Equity meeting at March 24th, 2022 at 10:03. We're reconvening. Madam Secretary Susan, if you can please call the roll.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let's see. Aspira, Florida. IET in Action. Black Chamber of Commerce. Coalition for Black Student Achievement, Myra, Levy-Bazemore. Compass, Rex Barnes. Compass, Amanda Canetti. Division of Blind Services, Economic Council of PBC, Craig McKenzie.
Present.
Hold on.
If you're online, if you're online and she calls your name, can you say present online, please?
Okay.
Craig McKenzie, Economic Council, present online.
Thank you. Got it. El Sol Jupiter, Suzanne Cordero. ESC Advisory Committee, Carla Donaldson. ESC Advisory Committee, Kimberlyn Spire O.
Kimberly, and I'm present.
Thank you. FAU card, Robin Jones.
Present online.
FAU card, Carrie Whittle.
Present online.
For the Children, Reggie Durandis. Gold Coast Down Syndrome, Sue Davis Killian.
Present.
Guatemalan Mayan Center, Lindsay McElroy. Haitian American Solidarity Center. Haitian Chamber of Commerce, Palm Beach County, Maria Antunia.
I'm the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Palm Beach County.
Thank you. Hispanic Education Coalition, Dr. Gabriela Mendez.
Present online.
Palm Beach Council of PTAs, Cassandra Corbin Thaddeus.
I'm present online as well.
Palm Beach Council of PTAs, Charmin Postal.
Charmaine, present.
Palm Beach Council Human Rights Council, Emmy Kinney.
Present.
Puerto Rican Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Juan Pagan. Puerto Rican Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Evelyn Vargas. Tri-Cities, Mary Evans. Tri-Cities, Eddie Rhodes. Urban League of Palm Beach County, Latoya Stevenson. West Palm Beach, NAACP, Marcia Guthrie. And West Palm Beach, NAACP, Rachel Mondesir.
Marcia Guthrie, present online.
Thank you.
You have way more than quorum for a quorum, right?
Thank you so much. We do have a quorum. Thank you. It's a great turnout. Thank you. In the room, we also have a few that are here. We have
Mr. Oswald, Chief of Equity and Wellness.
and we have a couple of others that are here for presentation. As during the time of presentation, they will come before and introduce yourselves, as well as public that is in the room. And Janina Simmons, who had to run out of the room, Manager of Equity and Access. So at this time, approval of February minutes and updates.
I move to approve the minutes for February.
I had a question on the minutes.
Thank you. Amanda Canetti moved to approve the minutes for February. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussions? At this time, Carrie, you are recognized.
Sorry, thank you. On the minutes, it said special education or background as one of the recommendations. And I think we should just strike or background because it leaves it up to a lot of interpretation with that.
I'm sorry. Can you go in the where exactly in the meeting?
Yep, it's under update on involuntary examination of mental health response crisis plan. Yes, it's the first one that says recommendation. Carrie Whittle card. It says special education teacher or background.
Okay, so
I think we should just strike or background because that can leave it up to a large interpretation or misinterpretation of what we're looking for there.
And while I agree, Carrie, at the time that these minutes was written and at the time that that recommendation was brought forth, that is how it was written. And we, according to Robert's Rule of Order, we could not strike out what actually took place at the meeting, at the last meeting. But what we can do is we can certainly make note of this recommendation, and if that's the recommendation is to strike or background, we will make note because these minutes have already went out and these minutes have been to the public and have touched the public. We will currently make notes at this meeting, and in these minutes we will reflect that the recommendation has been retracted to state Carrie Whittle from FAU Card recommended for a special education teacher on the CAPE team. Would that
Right.
satisfy the suggestion?
That would be fine. What I was saying, I actually had said special education teacher or background in special education. That's why, but I think the way it's written here is a little ambiguous. So if we could just strike that and just say special education teacher, I think that would suffice. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Let the minutes reflect the recommendation as such. Any further questions or discussions regarding the minutes, February minutes? Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes carry unanimously. Thank you. At this time, we'll have any public comments. We welcome any individuals from the public to come to a open mic, and please respect the time that's on the agenda. 2 minutes per speaker, please. Seeing no public comments, are there any public comments online? Hearing no public comments online, we will, if we can please, if I have the consensus of this committee to have the presentation due to the individuals that have come before us to give us a presentation on attendance data and problem solving that we requested, and we want to be respectful of their times and other schedules. If I have the consensus to shift around our agenda and allow the presentation to take place prior to the update from Chief of Equity Wellness, are there any objections? Thank you. At this time, we will have a presentation, and the floor is, and Mr. Oswald, you can do the.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a good month. It's been quite busy. The session did end, and we'll, talk more about that, I think, in future meetings. Obviously, there's a lot of implications to all that occurred up in legislation. But I did want to, and thank you for allowing us to jump into the presentation. So one of the big issues and concerns the district is really around student attendance. And as well as, let me walk back, you've heard over the last couple of years the number of students who never returned back to school, that the number is 8,000. So there's been a lot of efforts with the team to re-engage and find out where these students are, get them back in school. But in addition to that, we have students who picked up a lot of bad habits and or because of whatever reasons, the attendance is a real concern. It's always been a concern, and I would say it's one of the top priorities that we all need to lean into. So we'd like to go through a presentation. Joining today, we have Diane Wyatt, who's the Director of Safe Schools, as well as within the department, Amy Mazzocco and Greg Murphy. We're going through a slide deck to kind of give you more context of the issue and where we're at on that. So I'm going to share my screen here, some kind of used to do.
While he's sharing the screen, I just would like, this is Charmaine Postal, while he's sharing the screen, I would like to just a couple of housekeeping things that have come before the committee. When you're speaking, prior to speaking, if you can please state your name. As not always these meetings or committee meetings are presented as a hybrid with the actual video. Sometimes it's just audio, and so the community and the public is having a hard time identifying who is speaking, who is making a motion. So if we can please state our name, regardless if you're online or in the room, please state your name prior to making a point. And then another point is, if I can ask that each member, committee member or public, to please allow the presenters to finish their presentation and hold all questions, write them down, hold all questions to the end of the presentations. If I can please, if we can please respect that housekeeping rule. Thank you so much. And one mic.
Okay. All right. Everybody's got the ground rules. So that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to
Amy Mazzocco. Yes. Good morning. It's an absolute pleasure to be here to talk to you about attendance, because we definitely need your help and we welcome your help. We're very excited about our new attendance initiative. So we're going to go through some slides, and then at the end we will ask you for some feedback on solutions and any ways that you can possibly help. So currently we're dealing with several different issues with attendance in our district. We have students who are considered truant, meaning that they've accumulated at least 15 unexcused absences within a 90-day period. And then we also have students who are considered chronically absent. And chronic absence is defined as counting any type of absence, whether if it's excused, unexcused, if the student was suspended. And basically, that's become quite a challenge because we do have quite a few students that have very good reasons for not coming to school. And our goal is to help mitigate some of the obstacles that are preventing them from attending. We do know that chronic absence in the early grades definitely is connected to poor long-term academic outcomes. Next slide. So this is just a visual to show you from a California study of attendance in the early grades, and you can see a huge difference between students who were absent 9 or fewer days both years in kindergarten and first grade, and those who were absent 18 or more days in both years. So big difference there. Next slide. So I think Keith.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and take in this. Okay, so this particular slide, this is actually hot link, and I have it. I'm actually going to go to a different tab here. So this is like kind of hot off the press, a brand new, and we're working to improve it. We haven't even rolled it out to principals yet. I'm going to try to blow this up. There we go. So what I want you to zero in right now is here right now, this is a kind of a live interactive data dashboard as it relates to student attendance. So within this box here, and Amy and Greg jump in if I get anything wrong. So here we have the percent of students absence. This is the first quarter of 2020 that we're currently, or the first semester. So everything up to the first semester of 2020. So what you're seeing here is students with 5 or more absences was 24%. 10 or more was 6.6%, and 2.4% for 15 or more, and then 1.1% at 20 or more. So again, this is pre-COVID data for the numbers. So now I'm going to click here where it says 2022, and I want you to watch the numbers. 5 or more jumps to almost 40%, 16% for 10 or more, 7.6% for 15 or more, and 20 or more is 4%. So this is the entire district. So 4% on 175,000 kids, the numbers get up there.
Does that include all absences, excused and unexcused and everything, Keith?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to break this down within race and ethnicity. So down here in this chart, you can see that the light blue is 5 or more, down to the purple, 20 or more. So you can see within ethnicity and race. So if we look at, let me see if I can get even larger. Does that help? Okay. So on the high end, you can see for our students who identify as Hispanic, 45% of those kids are 5 or more. 15 or more is almost getting close to 10%. Or 15 or more days, and almost 5%. So if the district average is about 4%, they're almost 5% for 20 or more days. And you can see what it is for black, for white. So pretty large astronomical numbers. This tool, again, we haven't rolled it out yet to schools, will allow a school to drill down to their own data as well. We're working with our team at IT team and ET team around making some improvements so they can drill down to actual students. They do have that other ways to get to that, but we're trying to make it much more easier for schools to get to the actual students much quicker. So, again, this particular, just to show you why we wanted to bring this forward, you can see that these numbers, have gone up quite significantly. I'm going to go back over to the presentation.
So good morning, Greg Murphy. What you see here, this year we were governed. We have a new House bill that came through 5101, which identifies two groups of students that we are tasked to find. The first group are students who were lost during the 1920 school year. In those students were counted in our initial survey. And when we got to survey 2 and 3, which is our warm body counts that we do throughout the year of head counts of students, they were not counted in survey 2 and survey 3. The second group of students, our group B students, are students who had no record of of transfer, no record of delayed enrollment, and which we consider who did not enroll this particular school year. And that's our group A and our group B of our re-engagement project. Another task of this bill was that we were to create a work group committee comprised of district staff, law enforcement, state attorney's office, the DCF, DJJ, and Department of Health, in which that group meets on a monthly basis. And we just go over project updates, take recommendations, look for community partnerships, and as such to help us locate and find different resources within various communities that we may not be aware of to help with re-engaging students and families into an educational center. Also in this law, it states that any student or parent that obstructs their child from attending, from re-engaging into school, the school district may file a petition, shall file a petition against those families. It is to be noted that is not our goal. That is a last, final, absolutely no other efforts made type of resort, but that is mentioned in that particular bill. When we look at the numbers of the two groups that you see on the screen that we started out with in August that are broken down by region, we came up with close to 7,000 students that were either in Group A or Group B. Group A is ESSER. Group B is the list from this year, the did not enroll list. So this is a real sum of where we are, where we started out in this project. When you look at ethnicity and race as it relates to those two groups, the first group was students who were whereabouts unknown from year 1920. You find that the graph for you shows the different numbers of different percentages of numbers, of the demographic of white students being 589. You have black students, Hispanic students representing 697, black students being 297, so on and so forth. The next slide shows the group of D&E students, Hispanics being 1361, whites being 1127, and blacks being 1229, and the other subgroups as well as noted within our two groups. So as such, we have moved forward in putting together regional teams to accomplish and locate these students. As such, we have made tremendous strides in locating and finding students. We have found over 1,600 students who have gone outside of Palm Beach County, in which they've moved out of county, out of state, out of the country, or have enrolled into a private educational center. We have a number of kids who are we found one who is a runaway. We've sadly found two that were deceased, and we have a number of attempts that we've made to reach families. That's why you see the big brown area of awaiting responses. That's several attempts. It could be by phone, by email, by home visit, by leaving voicemails. And that's not to say that we have not made contact with those families. Just noting every effort that has been made for the re-engagement project.
So the approach that we're taking...
Before you go into this, so I just want to Mr. Murphy, talk about how your team has been working. So one of the meetings that he talked about, we did meet with Judge Kroll and kind of have a discussion about, and what Mr. Murphy's team has found early on is there's actually some kids in our own backyard that are sitting home and that should be in school that are not. And I think the reasons vary. There's some serious conditions that these families are in. So that's a different bucket of work than, let's say, the chronic absenteeism work. So that work, and I don't know if you want to briefly talk about what it takes to all the interventions, or is that coming up?
Sure.
Oh, that's partially coming up, but yeah.
I would like to also mention that as Mr. Oswald said, we do have a number of students, over 100 students that are in county and not enrolled in any educational center whatsoever. So we have made those students a priority, and we have individuals working just on those particular students to re-engage them. To convince them, to show them various options that we have and various options that there are within the community to afford them a education and get them on the path to graduation. Additionally, it should be noted we have also enrolled over 100 students and found over 1,600 students who have been enrolled into educational centers as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So our approach to combat chronic absence and truancy is a systemic approach. So in addition to all of the staff that's located at schools, we now, thanks to a grant, have been able to hire some additional staff at the district level to support schools. So we now have some senior case managers, as well as social services facilitators that can assist schools in doing home visits and helping to remove some of the barriers to attendance that these students and families are experiencing. And we also will be contracting with some additional community agencies to help with the work as well. Next slide. So the obvious solution in combating our attendance problem is addressing the why. If a student's not attending school, obviously, there's a reason for it. So, our goal is to dispatch the people that we have to help remove any barriers to enrollment, any barriers of why the student may not be attending school, and to provide assistance, resources, and referrals to any community agencies that can also help assist. Next.
Sorry, I was switching slides to let somebody in the room.
Oh, Amy Mazzocco, sorry.
All right, thank you. Greg Murphy again. So in our district, we look at attendance in chronic absenteeism. These are kids who are enrolled in school in three different levels. Excuse me. The first level is the preventative stage, in which we look at kids who are who have 5 absences in a 30-day window. In that, schools are reaching out to the families, and they're looking to see if what's the reason for those absences. If the kid may have been sick, may have had the surgery, may have had to go out of town for death in the family, those absences can be excused and just might not have been made known to the school at that time. So they're doing their investigation. However, should there not be a legitimate reason why the kid was just out from school without any reasonable rationale, we look to monitor those students a little more closely to be more proactive in mitigating truancy. The next stage is 10 absences in a 90-day period, and this is more so of our intensive phase. Here we look to do some more intrinsic work with the students and families, doing parent conferences, doing home visits if necessary, and trying to reach the families where they are, putting together attendance plans and contracts to make them aware of the importance of compulsory attendance and things of that nature, and putting services in place. We work heavily with CINSFINs through the Children's Home Society and the National Urban League. We work heavily with a number of different agencies, and then each school does have a behavioral health professional and co-located therapists that we use if we find that a kid needs those services for behavior and mental health, in addition to school counselors and things of that nature, or assigning them with the mentor or things of that sort. Once a kid has reached 15 days and 9-day absent, we look to have a final meeting with the parent and trying to see what's going on, and then put some more extreme measures into place to try to mitigate those absences and work with those families. If we find out whatever the issue is, we try to work within our system or find supporting agencies to assist those families. But that's also the time where we have to move forward and file a truancy packet if interventions have been to no avail. And from there, it moves on through the district office to different stages, even to where we are working with Children's Home Society and putting together case plans and things like that to kind of work with these families and children to get these students and families back on the correct path for attendance insurance, for attendance. Next slide. The data before you shows FY21, that school 2020-2021 data as it relates to chronic absenteeism, and these are kids who are currently enrolled. This shows the trend of what we were looking at, as you can see here. Truant that year, we had over 5,000 kids that were considered to be truant. This is over 15 days, and considered to be truant according to Florida State statute. You have over 3,000 kids who were identified as having over 10 absences in a 90-day period, missed at some point within the school year, and then you have 3,000 kids that were above 3,000 kids that were identified as having over 5 absences in a 30-day period. Altogether, there's over 12,000 students that had some issue with attendance during that particular school year. During our current year, as of February, as you can see, we were at truant kids. We're slightly above 1,500 kids who are now considered to be truant. We have over 2,000 kids who are in that intensive phase that schools are working with, trying to mitigate attendance and students from reaching that level of truancy and trying to work with them. And then you have about 3,000, close to 4,000 kids who are now at the preventative stage where they are at 5 days in the 30-day period. And altogether there you have over 7,000 kids, close to 8,000 kids who have some issue with chronic absenteeism.
So these are examples of some of the interventions that we currently use for chronic absence and truancy. The obvious would be outreach to the parents through phone calls, emails, letters. We might do an attendance contract, simple things like changing in the learning environment, perhaps a class change or a teacher change. Perhaps a student needs learning supports. I mentioned that some kids have a very good reason for not coming to school, but they need to be in school. So perhaps hospital homebound if they have a chronic illness. Even home education is a solution for some students. Mentoring, counseling, and tutoring. And then with the school counselor, the BHPs, the co-located therapists, in addition to our case managers, we can coordinate service to remove barriers such as homelessness, access to health care, providing mental health support, access to basic needs such as food, clothing, simply helping them to enroll in school, access to technology. We can provide home visits, and as Greg already mentioned, the SINS-FINS process. And, we want to do everything possible before we would have to, initiate a truancy petition. Next slide. This is a new intervention that we're very excited about. We've contracted with the Graduation Alliance for 2 different programs. The first one is called Engage, and it's a program for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. And basically, they will provide additional support, including providing the student with an academic success coach to follow up with the student and provide basically as much support as the student needs, in addition to also helping to remove any barriers for attendance. So we're looking to coordinate with them to help some of our students who are chronically absent, as well as students that are on their way to truancy or already labeled as a truant. And then the second program is a dropout recovery program which is very exciting because it's a virtual pathway to a high school diploma for students who were in grades 9 to 12 who are officially coded as dropouts within the school district. So this is often students who dropped out of school perhaps because they need to work, they're caring for a family member. So we're very excited to be able to provide a flexible option for them to get their high school diploma.
And if I can just add to that, so Florida virtual style, but with a lot more support. So a lot of more social emotional support, so that it has that type of flexibility to help support students. Florida virtual, if you know that, it's kind of like, good luck, you're on your own.
Yeah, with this program, the students in the Dropout Recovery Program also get a subject-specific success coach. So no matter what course they're taking, they have a coach that is familiar with that content area. There's tutorings available 24/7, so way more support.
And just the type of students we're looking here, and Mr. Murphy, I think you found some students, as well as we have others as well, but some students that you found them, but they were over 16, not planning on returning, right?
Correct. So there are a number of students, maybe close to 30 or 40 kids that we have identified who are beyond compulsory attendance and have stated that they did not want to return to the educational center, and they decided to either pursue their GED on their own, or did not want assistance, or they decided not to continue with the education. So this is another venue that is more amenable to their lifestyle that they have now become accustomed to help them get a high school diploma, to ensure that they are more successful in life. So that's the goal, is to make sure that we afford every opportunity that we have to get them to their high school diploma.
And some of the things that you found there are everything from kids taking jobs to help the family out to taking
many different job opportunities. Some students who have the responsibility of taking care of their family because their parent or parents are ill or unable to do so. They had to drop out and acquire employment. Some are with children. And you have another ones that have are migrant. You have a lot of migrant families as well that have tenant housing, that they're here today and not here on tomorrow. So there's a number of different reasons that we've gotten for why kids have decided not to return to the education center.
And we also are taking it another step with the data, because in addition to those students that Greg's referring to that were on our list of students that had dropped out within the past 2 years, we actually are looking at students who dropped out anytime like within the last 5 years. So we'll be reaching out to them as well to offer them this program. So this is why we need...
Jones online. I'm sorry. Is there an age gap to this?
So
age gap?
14 to, I think, 20, basically whatever in our district policy for educating students. If it's an ESE student, we can educate them through 22. So it's the same age requirements as regular school attendance.
Okay, thank you.
But the students do have to be in at least 9th grade. So this is where we need your help. Approving attendance is a team effort that requires a systemic approach. So we will be launching an attendance campaign for the rest of the school year to try to get students to improve their attendance. We need you to help us to get the word out. Also, if there's any other barriers that we may not be aware of as to why students may not be attending. Also, in your community agencies, obviously, continue to encourage regular school attendance, reinforce the importance of education, because without education, students won't have the skills needed to compete in the 21st century workforce, and always connecting students with a mentor. If you have that opportunity within your agency, the statistics are wonderful about how much that can help.
Thank you both. And I think, we talk about educating and those you have influence in within your organizations, is that even missing a day here or there And when we looked at how many were, between 5 and 10, that's still a lot. We had run some data a few years back that showed a student every day that they miss a school is essentially 1 percentile drop in their student achievement levels. So those days do add up, and it is missing, content and curriculum. So I'm going to stop there because we gave you a whole lot of information.
Mr. Oswald, can I mention one of the
Oh,
things?
absolutely.
Also, as you navigate through your various communities, if you come to community meetings, organizations that you know of that we can make presentations to get the word out about the issue that we're seeing with attendance, please let us know. We are happy to meet with community agencies and do these presentations and work with communities to partnership to get as much support as we can to mitigating this issue that we're finding here with attendance.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this presentation. Thank you so much for this presentation. I know there are a couple of hands that we do have raised online. Any in the room at this time? Okay, so we're going to alternate the online and so the first hand that I saw up was Marcia Guthrie. After it's going to be Emmy Kenny. Go back to the name. Emmy Kenny, Carrie Whittle, Amanda Canetti, Dr. Mendez. We'll have Miss Maria Atuna and then Sue Davis-Killen. Thank you. Marcia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation committee. This is Marcia Guthrie. I felt like I was listening to a deja vu. Mr. Oswald and I have long worked on the truancy attendance issues in this community. But I have one, a comment and then a question. I'm wondering if you have been able, for the students that you have found, and you said you have found a significant amount of students, if you've had the opportunity to talk with those students and engage them around kind of getting to the root of why were they not returning to school or feeling as though they don't want to return to school, and then ultimately what was it that helped to convince them to return to school? So that's my first question. And the second question that I have is, have we considered examining some of the school climate data to see kind of, is there a correlation between what students are saying in terms of their feelings of safety, social emotional connectedness at school, relationships with teachers? Are any of those things contributing to their disengagement to any degree? Because I know there's been quite a movement of staff, so sometimes when you don't have consistent educators in front of you and other things like that, that might impact your desirability about the school setting. So I'm just wondering, what are you learning from the students that you have engaged? And then are we looking at how climate may be impacting a young person's desire to return to the school center, yes or no? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Greg Murphy here. One of the main reasons that we've seen to come about was issues with the pandemic. It could be around families were just nervous about COVID, the unsurety of being in large environments. You have families that, as I said, where they lost loved ones, and some students had to pick up the slack for the family to make sure that the family is sustained. So ones that we have re-engaged with the district, a lot of those have those families. The issues are so varying, so I can't really. It's hard to point out themes in all of them because they're so different for each family. But the ones we have engaged, those are some of the most ones we've heard is issues with COVID surrounding either death, sick parents, or sick siblings, things of that nature, or some families having to relocate, where mom and dad has to go off to work somewhere else to find employment, to earn funds, and to have to send money back home to the family to be able to support the family, and the young daughter and young child has to make support mom and taking care of the children, getting the other kids to school, things of that nature. So we have supported families very closely and intimately to mitigate any issue on the school level as well. So if there was anything like that, we work with principals and administrators to kind of hand walk them through the enrollment process and getting them back into the school system, and also making sure that they're monitored by the school and us for academic and for attendance purposes. As it relates to school climate, I think as we go throughout this process, I think we look at if things are mentioned about issues with school, we do contact principals and work with principals and those administrators on the campuses to try to resolve any issue that the family may have. And we have been successful that every principal, every administrator has been very amenable and workable with these students, making as many changes and accommodations to families as they possibly can to make sure that the climate that the kid is returning to is one that they feel safe and secure in.
I would definitely say the research around school climate does play a factor for many students. School connectedness is not new. When you have caring adults that take an interest of you, depending on a student situation, you're more likely to go to school, and especially if you're taking courses and there's an interest level. Obviously, engagement is much higher, and students have motivation to go. And clearly, we've seen in the past years, we haven't got SEQ data yet for this year. We'll have to definitely take a deep dive in the SEQ data to look at what students are telling us. I can tell you pre-COVID, one of the questions for students for any school effectiveness questionnaire is, one that always astonishes me is the last year has been hard for me and my family. So we know students are going through things. About 50% of the students agreed or strongly agreed with that statement, and that was pre-COVID. So connecting students to having caring adults and the school center is a priority. We did present with the principals again this past month, but this is going to be an ongoing thing to address school climate so that every school is connected to someone and take a very systematic approach to that, because you're spot on, Ms. Guthrie, regarding climate is a factor.
Thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate that, because if we're going to find these young people, we don't want to lose them again. And so I understand everything that was presented around the credit recovery, making sure that they get back online academically, but we have to ensure that they get back online in their full orientation, right, as full people. So they're coming back to campuses that feel unwelcoming, that feels isolating, especially for the high school students. Some of these high schools are extremely big. You can feel like a small fish in a large pond. So we have to have a strategy for when these young people become re-engaged, and for the ones who might be on the bubble of disengagement, that we can shore up to make sure that they know that somebody is there who's accepting them, welcoming them, and rooting for them. So if there's anything that we can do to help support that, certainly we'd be interested to do so. We have some conversations coming up with Birth to 22 with young people. So maybe we actually have one tonight. Maybe I'll ask some questions about kind of how kids are feeling in these environments and what they're hearing from their friends, and I'll certainly share back with you all. Thank you so much.
Just for all the speakers, if we can, or all those that have their hands up and waiting to speak, if we can please be respectful of the time and those other presenters, because the presenters do have to leave, and we do have another presentation. So if I ask that you ask your question, allow them to answer that question, and if you have a follow-up, please go to the back of the line for those who have their hands up as well to ask a question. Next speaker.
Yes, Emmy Kenny, Palm Beach County Human Rights Council. Quick question. I see on the slide it says connect students with a mentor. Students with a mentor are 52% less likely to skip school. Is that just an organic suggestion, or is there a program for that? Mr. Oswald, you just talked about connecting students with an adult. So what is the process? I guess I'm looking for more details about that.
Yeah, so I think it's both, and you all can add as well. So we have many different agencies that we partner with to help a very formal approach to mentorship. Some that are regional, tied to certain schools. United Way funds a lot of different agencies as well for mentoring programs. That but sometimes it's a matter of making sure, and working at the school center or from the community, is making sure that the kid actually gets connected to one of those. I prefer the formal approach, but it can also be the less formal and more organic as well. So I think it's not one or the other. But I'm sure you all have interacted with students where they don't feel they have someone, right? And then that's a matter of where we try to problem solve at the school level or through the community level to make sure that the student has a caring adult. And I think as a school system, we need to improve upon how we do that more formally. But there are many, many agencies that provide mentorship programs that we work with. It's a matter of making sure that the kids who really need it are getting connected. That's always a big pet peeve of mine, is like, these people say you do mentor, but I need you to mentor these kids that have the most serious concerns, right? It's like, I don't need you taking the kid who has a 3.0 and, no attendance issues, right? I need you to take the kid who's 1.0 and off track. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that question.
The only thing I would add is that we also have to consider the relationships. That sometimes being large groups, some students don't desire that. While there are many available, sometimes they want to be serve as the school counselor or one of their teachers to serve as a mentor, and that has been made accountable. And that's what Mr. Oswald was talking about as well. The more informal type, where someone in that school base is assigned as that mentor because they have a good relationship with that student, able to reach that student the best, and that's who the student actually desired to be connected with as a mentor, and they go through certain things and strategies used that are research based as well.
It just give you, I know I'm sorry about the time, but one example I do want to give, like a school who's doing we were blown away. So we have another data dashboard like this around discipline. And so we've been obviously looking at the discipline dashboard. And so we're studying the schools that have shown significant improvements from pre-COVID to now. So one of those schools were Dwyer High School. So Dwyer High School had, I want to say 1,000 incidents between the first 3 quarters of 2020, and then up now they've dropped to 200 and change. So huge, 75% drop in incidents. So Ms. Wyatt, Ms. Elaine Hubbard-Williams, myself, we went over and called Mr. Brooks, the principal over there. Could we come down and see what's going on? Something's different, right? So we ended up spending like more than a half a day there. Their team went through intensive process of their school-based team meeting, and how they've really completely changed their approach, that kids are off track. They have a process where they call each kid gets their own case manager. For me, what I heard was every kid knows who their caring adult is. So if the principal goes, "Oh, who's your case manager?" the student needs to be able to say who that person is that I can go to for support. And that can either be driven by the student initiating who they would like, or sometimes the adults who initiate that. But the school's taken an active role, and that's really reduced significantly their discipline issues. So going back to Ms. Guthrie's comment about climate, it does make a difference. So very strong fidelity around SBTs and connecting that does help, and I think that helps making sure that, and they also have some different mentoring programs to support that as well.
I wanted to add one other piece in. Diane Wyatt, Director of Safe Schools. One of the things that I want to caution is, as you're looking for mentors and as you're looking for people within your organization to be that trusting and caring adult, it's important that those adults have the skills that they need to cope with the things that the kids will bring to the table for you. So we do have a partnership with Sandy Hook Promise that we've been working on for the last 3 years, and we've talked to our kids about finding that trusting adult. Well, Sandy Hook's a nonprofit organization online. They have training that the adults can take for free on how to be the trusting adult, because the last thing we want is for that adult to make that outreach to that child and then be so frightened by what they're getting for that natural day in the life of the child and not know how to help them and cause that child to take a further step back. So those are pieces that are out there to help prepare your adults when they're getting ready to support those children.
Thank you. The next speaker, I believe, was Carrie Whittle.
Hi, yes, thank you. I just wanted to thank you so much for this presentation. It was great information, and I really like the fact that you're utilizing outside community agencies to support you in this process. The question I had was regarding the student makeup. You had mentioned a lot of information on race. However, I didn't see as much, and I didn't know if it would make a bigger impact also to look at other demographics. Also, maybe do we have a breakdown of those students with disabilities, things like that, and that information? Because I wasn't quite sure if I had seen that, but and maybe it was there, but I just thought that might be helpful too, because maybe there's a lot of students with disabilities that are in these numbers as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So they're actually, I believe Amy and Greg are meeting tomorrow with some of the design and ESE and English language learners is one that we want to add in as another filter, because we do have that a somewhat similar dashboard for discipline, so that we can filter down. But absolutely agree with that recommendation, and that's plans to add that piece.
Thank you. The next speaker, I believe, was Amanda Canetti.
Hello, Amanda Canetti, Compass Community Center. The question I had was for when we're looking for the kids with high attendance, or low attendance, I guess, high missing attendance, do we collect any data on how many of them state it's because of bullying? Is that something that we collect? Because I know from our YBS data that LGBTQ kids reported the highest missing attendance because of feeling unsafe in school. So is that something that we collect? Because I know we wouldn't necessarily be able to put on the dashboard, the kids that identify as LGBTQ, because we don't ask that, but we know that when they do self-identify, they are acknowledging that they're missing school because of an unsafe environment.
Greg Murphy. When a case manager or social worker reaches out to a family, anything that the student states or the family states is documented, and as such, if we need to follow up on any type of allegation that there is, we follow up with the school and the proper contacts to make sure that an investigation is completed.
So, but I will tell you, it's definitely an issue, right? So I know when it comes to some of our discipline issues, and we have a discipline review committee. One of the biggest issues, the kids are bringing weapons, so we have an increase in weapons, tasers, and knives from pre-COVID to now, and part of that is, either on the way to school or feeling unsafe, and kids not realizing that this is a whole other issue that we can talk about in the future, but just educating families that bringing a taser or knife is considered a zero tolerance and results in, serious consequences for a student.
And it's something for us to consider that when we had our discussion with the superintendent at Compass, a lot of the kids said that because of feeling that when they talked to administration, nothing was happening, that they were then resorting to fighting back, and then we're getting into disciplinary issues. So we're seeing that uptake with them on if we don't acknowledge and do something in their eyes of the issue, then they're escalating it to where it makes sense that they're bringing things and fighting back.
You're absolutely right. And that left a lasting impression in the superintendent, and he's really charged us to address those issues. So, yeah.
The next speaker we had on was online, and I can't see the raised hand. People. Dr. Mendez.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Great. So I don't want to repeat. I agree with many of the questions, and I think that on top of analyzing the reasons for those students who we are trying to bring back or are back, what the reasons for them to leave were, we should also try to see what happens to those students that insignificant percent went to either private school or to Florida Virtual. I'm not sure. I think a 9% and a 4% went to either of those from the students that we couldn't count in the public schools anymore. And I think that having an exit survey for those students could give us information on the reasons for them leaving. They may be cultural climate. There may be all this cultural war that the governor is promoting. I don't know. There are so many reasons. Why are they leaving public schools? I think a survey exit could help with that. I don't know if you have done something like that. Thank you.
We've done that. That's a great recommendation. I think we could work on trying to do something. We've done some of that in the past in some other situations, but it's a good recommendation for us to look at, to send out a communication to those that we're able to reach maybe electronically. We can do a mass email. So that's a great suggestion.
Thank you. The next speaker.
It's not so much a question, it's an observation.
You can state your name, I'm sorry.
Oh, Maria Antuna, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. It seems like, and it's a pattern that I've seen in almost all the slides every month that we're shown, that Hispanics is the highest percentage of every bucket that you're showing us. And that's becoming quite concerning and alarming to me, being a leader in the Hispanic community. I'm just in a process that from last month of where all the disconnect is coming from. And I'm assuming probably the biggest part is the language barrier. Obviously, we understand that. But it's concerning because last month, as it states in the minutes, I was very alarmed at that was the highest rate of female Hispanic transport rates. The students in crisis were female Hispanics. And here we are again with this. And again, the Hispanics are leading in the highest percentage. So I'm trying to reconcile in my mind where all of the disconnects are coming and why Hispanics are being the highest percentage in almost all the buckets.
Yes, I completely understand. I think this is where, at the school level, they need to drill down, because I think when you actually drill down by school, you'll see some schools where, especially those where majority are serving Hispanic students, the numbers are even higher, right, than what you saw there. So some of that, and these are staffs that have a lot of employees that look like the kids, they're serving. So then does that get into cultural issue? Does that get into, a whole lot of things? I think partially through the pandemic, kids picked up some bad habits, families picked up bad habits, or it was easy just to stay home and rely on technology. So this is where I think it's going to take a lot of layers of support to re-educate, kind of reprogram everybody to, no, you can't just stay home because you don't feel like going to school today. You need to be in school. And emphasize that importance. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that's why I think we're here to educate everybody, and anything that you can, that you hear from the community, to please inform us if there's things that you're hearing that we can do better.
I'm sorry, I'm taking offense to blaming the victim and saying, okay, yeah, bad habits and Hispanic and bad habits. I'm sorry. Why don't we look into the culture of the schools? Why don't we look into the percent of leaders, of school leaders that are Hispanics? It's very low, and it hasn't increased in many, many years. So instead of blaming people to being lazy, which is the traditional stereotype, we should look into the school cultures and into what we can improve.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I was not going to let that go. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and absolutely, by no means, if I came across as blaming, absolutely not. Because that, as far as kids just staying home randomly, that crosses all races and ethnicity, so we found it. And then, as I said, it's going to take layers of support and addressing this issue. And addressing the demographics of the employees, absolutely. And I think we've shared data before where that has improved. But we've got to continuously work on that. And culture and climate, absolutely. as mentioned earlier, an area that is being addressed.
I'm going to kind of skip Sue and go online because we were going in order, and she gave me a nod that that's okay. So Cassandra Corbin Thaddeus will go, then Sue Davis, then myself, and then Robin Jones. And is there anybody else in the room that would like to speak? Again, I see Emmy Kenny. Again, if that order shift, we'll go from online to online. So Cassandra, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charmaine. So just real quick, so sentiments for the last caller echoed for our Black students. But I have two questions. One is, have we thought about incentivizing our students who are in school to support us to reach the students that are not in school? Because many of them are probably their friends, and they probably can get those students back in school or let us know what we need to get them back in school. So that's question number one. Number two, that data that has shown, I would like to see that data just aggregated even further to show Black male students and what that looks like as it relates compared to female students. So I guess those are my two comments. Well, comment and question.
So I think the first question was around
supportive schools. Yes, we have. We have been working we have planned with our district-wide positive behavior support team for schools to begin to implement attendance incentives into their school-wide expectations to support students who are attending school regularly. As we're in the beginning phases of rolling that initiative out. But some schools have already taken the initiative, that initial step, and begin to incentivize students for a good attendance.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Murphy. That wasn't the question. I'm saying students that are in school, are we incentivizing them to help us get other students back in school? Right? So they may know their friends who are not in school, and so they can help us reach those other students and get them back in school. So if we incentivize our students, who are pretty much the experts on the ground right now, that are in school, they can help us reach those that aren't, who are likely their friends.
Yes, we can definitely add that into part of the training.
And we are seeing that one of the pieces is where the student was last enrolled, that school has been actively searching for those kids. And we have their notes from their outreach of trying to find kids, calling, making, even the person who was approved to pick the child up at school, let's call them and see if they know where they are. But in addition to that, we're seeing notes within the school's documentation that they have looked at their social groups and how, do you know where this child moved to? How can you help? And started reaching out to the students that have been with the child and giving us that documentation and help as well. And we can continue to encourage that and look at the community as such too.
And then the last question regarding gender, yes, so that we're able to drill down by gender is on the track too, so that we can drill that as well as the ESE and English language learners.
You said yes, Keith. I'm sorry. Did you say we already have that, or you can drill down to get?
We can't yet, no, but that's on our agenda for tomorrow when we meet with the design team. That's something we want. We do it for our discipline data, and they didn't put it in this one, and we want that in there. So we agree with you.
Thanks.
Can you please state your name?
This is probably a little less.
State your name. I'm sorry.
Sue Davis Killian. Since COVID cases are down, this is less of an issue right now, but unfortunately we can't guarantee they won't come up again. But I've worked with a number of families whose doctors have recommended that the kids not attend school with the case numbers high, and Hospital Homebound has stated emphatically they will not approve Hospital Homebound for anybody because of COVID risk. So then I have parents getting truancy letters. So there seems to be a disconnect from the group working on getting students back to school or in things like Hospital Homebound and Hospital Homebound who won't approve that. Now, for my families, I figured out how to get around it, but I know there's a lot of families out there who wanted that. So just a comment, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that is it. I just wanted to make that comment because I'm not sure if you all are aware that Hospital Homebound is telling people that. Even with the doctor's note saying it emphatically, don't go back to school.
And hopefully that has shifted with the vaccine being available for some families who are waiting for that.
That has helped.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's a real issue. And the legislation, too, around some of this is playing into that. But I'll look into that. Thank you.
I thought I saw Robin Jones. Your hand was
Yes.
up. You're right.
My question was just, will that interactive chart for attendance tracking be available to the public, similar to how the COVID one was, where the public's parents or any supporting agencies were able to go on and look at the COVID cases at school? Will that same interactive
database
chart be available to the public?
Once it's finalized, I'm going to have to go through with legal to see if make sure there's nothing in there that could be identifiable to students. So I don't see an issue, but it's just something we have to run through. I need to run through some channels.
Thanks.
That was, so I think Charmaine Postal here. I am next. Cassandra, I see your hands. I am going to speak, and then you can speak, and Emmy if we'll follow. So I had a couple of questions. That was one of my questions, Robin, who have access to the database, and is it available to the public? And that answer was, question was just answered. So I guess it'll go in my follow-up later when we discuss recommendations and suggestions. Tardy, so my other question was, is tardy considered truant at any level? Or extensive absence?
So if a student is tardy more than half of a class period, then that's considered an absence.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be like for school day, if they're absent more than half of the school day, then that's considered, absence.
Okay, and what about, so I had my other questions, so I guess you're going to answer my questions in pieces. So the truancy more than half a day, what if a student is tardy for an extent, like if the student is tardy, like the bell rings at 8 o'clock and that student goes into class at 8:20 every single day for, let's say, 20 days or 17 days? They
just accumulate tardies, which is a whole nother bucket of work. When we talk about tardiness,
right?
Because there's just as being a former principal at different levels,
right?
You've got your.
But at any point when you accumulate those tardiness, I guess that's the question I'm getting to. Will they kick into truancy?
No.
No. Okay, perfect. That was the answer. Do we collect attendance data? I think there's someone asked this question. Do you have? They asked the question in a bit, but I wanted to just go a little bit further. Do we collect attendance data info where we can see a chart of, when we collect those, when those agencies or the workforce goes in to find out why that student was absent? Bullying, safety, pregnancy, food, sleepy. Did I miss it, or do we have a graph that actually shows, okay, there was 2% of students that was pregnant. There was 10% of kids that was bullied. There was X amount of kids that were, that complained about food, or they were just tired. That do we have a data that we can just easily 1, 2, 3, like we've seen here, that can grab that information so that we can better correlate those what Miss Guthrie was stating, to correlate that school climate. We can easily see, hey, this is the correlation. We have X amount of students that are complaining about bullying, and we have X amount of percentage of bully reasoning behind attendance.
We have some data that is being collected, I think, through Mr. Murphy, but nothing that's formal as a district. Mm-hmm. It's more through the re-engagement project. We've heard different cases, but not as across all schools. Mm-hmm. And I think partially is because it varies so greatly. Right. And Mr. Murphy can jump in more, or Ms. Mazzocco. I don't think any two cases the same.
Right.
Every family has their unique challenges and issues?
Correct. And those instances like that are documented in the case notes of the social worker and case manager, and followed up with the needed support at whatever level it needs to be supported. So there are no indicators in graph and infograph that will depict that information at this time. No.
Okay. I can tell you, though, with my background in school counseling, that's what I'm asking every day is I'm wanting the why. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I definitely want to work towards is capturing the why.
Because, when I look at it as a parent, if I know the why, majority of the why in my community, for example, if you were at ABC Elementary and that why was because of, if 50% of the why was because of food, then there's a food insecurity at that school. Then that's a whole nother thing that we would tackle. We would bring those resources. That's a need with assessing. There's the community assessment without even assessing the community of their needs. It's an indirect way of saying, hey, listen, that food insecurity, that food insecurity, that's what the school is, dealing with. If, 1, 2, 3 high school, if majority of those kids, if that percentage is bullying, then there's a bullying issue that we need to tackle at that school. But if you don't have the schools identifying, even with tardiness, yes, attendance is huge, but even with tardiness, if you don't have a why those kids are getting to school, if it's because I have to drive them to school and I live 2 miles away, well, did they know about the bus that's right down the street at their house that can get those kids to school? If we don't know those whys, we're going to be here every year. And those numbers are going to continue to jump because we are not, soliciting that data from the schools. Yes, the district is great to get the data from, but individually at the schools, you can go easily into the school working smarter, not harder, to the school and say, oh, this is the reason why majority of those, we need to know a why when we meet with those parents because you're sending them those letters. I'm pretty sure a grave number of those parents, when they get those letters, it makes them say, whoa, hold on, truancy, going to jail, or, whatever it is. They come to that school with that letter. What the heck is this? What is going on? They're no. And they start giving you all kinds of explanations. There you're capturing that data and also giving them that resource. But that's a recommendation, and I think you've answered all my questions. And I just wanted to say, great point with that exit survey, and go into final remarks. Any final questions? I think the last person was Emmy because I did not see anyone online.
Ms. Foster, can I mention
she
one thing?
lowered her hands. Yeah, so Mr. Murphy is going to speak. The last person that we're going to have speak here will be Ms. Kenny.
So I don't want you to or anyone to have the thought that we're not looking at those things as we get those and not that that's the case, but as we get those information, we are working one-on-one with each of those cases, as if it's a bullying complaint, if it's an issue with transportation, and working with schools to get work with ESC transportation and all that, and make those requests to get fulfilled, to get this, to do everything we possibly can to get this child back in school. If I have not seen anything with food or anything of that nature, but we are looking at these case notes and reading them thoroughly to make sure that we are addressing whatever those needs are for each child individually, so that they know that they feel supported on every end. And then we're working with schools in turn and other district teams to make sure that those fulfillments are met as best we can as an organization. So I do want to make sure that is noted. But thank you for your concern, and we will most definitely continue to look into that as well.
Absolutely. And I if I came across that way, that is not the intention. I think my intention was to, you could have probably the individual caseloads. If you have, let's say, 50 caseloads at one school, absolutely, you're probably dealing with every last one of those caseloads and handling them accordingly. But if those 50 caseloads are sending if those 50 caseloads have a consistency of an issue, then it goes beyond the attendance department. It goes beyond, it's a bigger picture that we have to now look at. Now the attendants going to continue doing their work, but who else is doing their job? Because the attendants is doing their job on the one-on-one, but there's a bigger problem that's beyond the attendance pay grade at that point. I think that's where I was going to. Emmy, for the final comments.
Emmy Kenny. I just wanted to, on bullying and what Amanda said earlier, provide the data on that because I was able to look it up. It's 20.3% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual students miss school because they feel unsafe at school. So I want to say again, and let me say this really quickly. Anecdotally, one of the students that I tried to organically mentor in the community who missed a lot of school because of bullying, missed school because she was Baker acted, because she became suicidal because of that, missed school because the day she returned she was assaulted on campus, and then finally the parent pulled her out of school. And the school police actually blamed the victim in this case, and it became so traumatizing that she just left school. And I think now she's in virtual school. But again, I'm telling the story to reiterate that we need to take a proactive approach to bullying, specifically the LGBTQ community, who is, once again, not even represented in any of the data that we have. And this 20.3% does not include trans students. This is from 2019, which is the last data we have. And it's before the legislation we see passing that targets LGBTQ youth. So we know that this is going to get worse. And once again, we need training for administrators and all staff. We need LGBTQ inclusion in the curriculum so their classmates know that we are not freaks who deserve to be bullied, and more safe spaces designated on campuses. So I cannot reiterate enough, we need a proactive approach, not just a reactive approach.
And thank you so much. And I think we'll end on, we'll ask, I'm not sure when this comment came in, we'll ask this question: how big is the team that is targeted to work on the attendance approach?
At the district level, there are 21 of us.
And that's only because of ESSER funding, so that's temporary. So, but it's.
Thank you. And once again, Ms. Wyatt, Mr. Murphy, and Ms. Mazzocco, thank you so much for presenting to us. Just as we end every other presentations, I captured some of the recommendations that the presenters have brought before this committee, and this is the attendance department. I want to capture your committee. Safe Schools, the Department of Safe Schools. So support from the DDC by getting the word out on the attendance campaign, resources that are available, reinforcing the importance of education to obtain the academic credentials and skills needed to complete in a 21st century workforce. Also, the access to help us identify, for the DDC to help this department identify barriers to attendance and connect students with a mentor with our respective agencies. Did I capture almost all of your acts correctly? Yes. Okay. Anything else, any recommendations or suggestions that you would need this committee to bring forth? Because we are advisory committee that bring these recommendations and suggestions before the superintendent and board. Is there anything that you need at this time from us? Thank you very much. Again, committee, please let's give them a round of applause for giving us a great presentation, and thank you so much for attending. For the committee, and you can stay if you choose for this piece here, for the committee, is there any recommendations for this department as what I captured, and please correct me, anyone, if you can. We would like to bring back at some point, I would say, we always like to give a time frame.
May 4.
So for feedback from this committee.
Because
there was several questions regarding questions about access to the database. There was questions about questions regarding about that data. I know we were looking to, there was some data that we were looking to receive that would come back to this committee. Can you share the presentation? I believe we can share the presentation, and that will go through staff. They'll send it through staff. So we were asking for a couple of data, and we was told there's a couple of things that will come back to this committee. So we would like to welcome this committee back to give us those questions, giving them enough time to formulate the data they don't have in place, and the data that they would need to work with other departments. I have asked Mr. Oswald if May would be for updates. If May, any objections for the committee that this body or these presenters will come back to us or before us in May for these updates. No objections? I hear none. I see none. So May, what are those specific suggestions? Committee members, you're more than welcome, those online, to write them.
And if I may.
Comments.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
It's a two-way street, so I'm going to ask for updates from you all too about what you did and how you acted on these recommendations. So did you take this back? Did you meet with your agencies? So I'm going to hold you all accountable just like you all hold us accountable.
Okay, so it sounds like a partnership. So their ask for us is we have homework, and I am actually going to ask for those updates at the next meeting on, and then we're also going to bring it back to them in May. So not only will they're asking us for May, but I'm asking this committee to report back to us in at our next meeting what you're doing in your respective committees. Specific data that was needed. I did not capture specific data. The only thing I have is to collect attendance data info for the reasoning behind attendance. And
disaggregating by ESC, English language learners, and gender.
Disaggregating data.
Further disaggregating.
Yeah, further disaggregating data by ESC, gender. What was the
English language. English language learners.
Gender identity.
Language learners. Gender, ESC, English language learners. Did I hear anything else?
We may have more after we meet with the team. We'll see what we come up with.
Okay, and then we capture that. I think that, and the database information, if it could be shared out.
I got to work on that.
Okay. So those were the three those are the three recommendations that we have for the presenters in this department, Safe Schools Department, and we've been tasked with our homework.
Hey, Charmaine.
Yes.
I do want to, and let me just reiterate my point about a student initiative. Like in students, I don't think it was understood, and it's something we can talk about later. But I just want to put on the agenda at some point to have a conversation around a full student initiative that is, let's get our friends back in school. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like that my point was kind of missed. And I want to see if
Cassandra, you're breaking up really bad. Can you type it in the comment?
Yeah. Okay, let me.
I'm sorry. So I hear what you're saying, Cassandra. I heard you the first time, and I'm hearing you now. She's saying like a friend to bring a friend back. So a student initiative. Creating an actual student initiative in these schools for friends to bring a friend back. So if Janina knows that Keith is not going to school and Susan is the administrator and she knows that Janina and Keith have been friends, she recognizes that Janina is coming to school. She says, Janina, where's Keith? And I'm like, Keith, he home. And then she says, well, Janina, I need you. What kind of incentive can we give Janina and Keith to get Keith to come back to school? Right. So I'm going to try to get Keith to come back to school. So some type of student initiative program to try to get Keith back into school.
So sorry,
what kind of thing can we create through Safe Schools or through the district to try to get these students on board? Like we have student ambassador programs. Yeah, some kind of peer-to-peer kind of thing to get these kids back in school.
I'm sorry, Cassandra. I am so sorry that I missed that point. Yes, that is, she said that before. Absolutely. So the other request for Safe Schools was and this could go through Safe Schools because this is part of Safe Schools. Part of Safe Schools. So again, that's why I was asking if I missed anything, please type it in the comment. So another recommendation for Safe Schools is to form or to bring forth some form of peer-to-peer initiative.
So
and incentivizing those students.
I like the idea of that, but I think we might need to consult with legal because of FERPA, and like publicly discussing a student's attendance with another student could be a big concern.
Yeah, we'll look at it. Yeah.
Okay. But it's still a recommendation how we bring it back. You could bring it back to us in the form of, hey, this is a legal issue, but that's a recommendation that stands from this committee.
Yep.
And you said that the note said that they're reaching out to the friends already. So the difference is, rather than just asking the friends if they know where they are, it's saying, hey, we'll give you this incentive if you can get them back. So
without discussing why.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the exit.
Great point.
And the exit survey exists.
Did we?
Yeah,
did that exist? Exit survey, yes. The recommendation is exit survey, but I do need a motion from a committee member regarding these recommendations. Gender identity was the other further disaggregating. Disaggregating data.
Right.
Did I not say that? Yeah. I captured it on the disaggregating gender. The further disaggregated data, ESE, gender identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she
okay.
said we got it.
Okay. So gender. Okay.
Gender.
Yes. So if I can have a motion. I need that motion.
I'll make a motion. I think I can do it virtually, right?
Yes, you are allowed.
Oh, I'll make a motion to move the recommendation.
The motion is recommending further disaggregating data by ESE, gender identity, English language learners. Those are the three. English language learners, recommending an initiative, a peer-to-peer initiative. I'm sorry, she's typing. Are you typing while I'm saying it? Oh, I can write it.
No. I got you. Just
okay.
Tell me it's the gender disaggregation.
Further disaggregating data by ESE, gender, English language learners, gender identity.
Yeah, I already typed it up there. So
okay. Copy and paste. Okay, no problem. And then also a peer-to-peer initiative to bring students back. Collecting attendance data info to identify the reasoning behind.
For students who've left.
Yes, exit surveys for students who have left, and for students who have returned. You have captured any attendance, truancy matter. It would be just data for students who've left, and those exit surveys, I'm specifically asking that we capture those reasonings, i.e. bullying, safety, pregnancy, food, it could be what we identify, but those main ones.
I know.
Did I miss something?
Yes.
We added the exit survey, Gabriella.
And that the committee to take back and educate their sphere of influence.
No, so that's the recommendation, and also access to the database. Access to the database, we didn't have that. So these are all the information that this committee is going to come back, or this department is going to come back and answer whether they could do it or whether they cannot. This is the recommendation that we have for them. And then the recommendation that the motion to also include the recommendation that they have for the DDEC is to bring this information back to our respective agencies and mentor and partner, and also opportunity for them to present to our respective agencies as well. The motion was by Cassandra Corbin Thaddeus, and it was seconded by Juan Pagan. I'm just reading all of the motions out. That's what I just did. I ain't reading it again. Do I need to reread the motion? No, the consensus says no. I do not need to reread the motions.
Oh, no, okay.
Are we ready for the question?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? I'm sorry. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Is that Carrie Whittle? Do you have discussion? Okay, thank you. Oppose? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Okay. I feel like I'm not talking. All right. Is that better? Perfect. Thank you. Moving on to, I have someone who can she go first? Kimberly, to give the updates on the subcommittee. Okay. She have to run it today. Kimberly, are you on the call, Kimberly? I think I see. Yes, I see her.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Did Keith need to do his report?
We're going to go ahead and allow you to. I know you have to run, and I would love for you to go ahead and give your presentation on subcommittee. Do you need the full 30 minutes, Kimberly?
Not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Today, the subcommittee on training met for the first time, and it was an organizational meeting to figure out how we would proceed from here on in. We are going to be getting lists of trainings that are available to different categories of school staff, and in the case of having police that are located at the school and are not school district employees. In addition, those individuals, like police, who have contact with the students. First of all, we learned that the police trainings are not controlled by the school district itself, and so I am going to need to have contact to the police chief to find out exactly what their trainings are and to gain access to that. That list of training and being able to review it is important to our subcommittee because some of the issues that have occurred with the different populations and constituencies that we all have involved police actions on school campuses. So, Keith, may I be able to have you do an introduction or provide me with what I need to be able to make that request?
Can you repeat?
Can people hear me?
Yeah, we can. I can.
Would you be able to help connect me to the chief of police for the school district to find out more about the training that they offer the officers who are placed at the schools?
Yes, we can definitely work on that. We are in transition. Actually, a week we're going to be doing interviews for a new chief of police. It may be best if we wait till after transition. I will tell you that there was legislation that just passed under the previous Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act. I forget the actual bill number, that does require all school officers to be trained around de-escalation and other strategies. I'll have to get the specific language and find that. I can send you that. So there are certain requirements. There are things that we already do as a district, but there are some new requirements by law.
Okay, that would be wonderful if you could get that to us for the next subcommittee meeting. Then we decided that we were going to start, and I'm about to drive again, we were going to start with the, for next meeting, the Jason Foundation Module 2 Mental Health Issues Surrounding Suicidal Ideation Training. That was the one that Dr. Musenik was spending a lot of her time at our last full group meeting describing. And so we have been given access to the training. We will be, for my subcommittee members, be getting instructions on to how best to access all of the different trainings we're going to be reviewing. We'll be getting written instructions how to do that. And at our next subcommittee meeting, we will have reviewed those on our own time, and we will be providing our notes. And then once we have our meeting, we will provide them to the overall District Diversity and Equity Committee so that we can get everybody involved in any kind of recommendations we want to make regarding them.
Kimberly, I've sent those instructions out to you already. They're pretty simple, so I've already sent them to the subcommittee members. via email.
I appreciate that. I wasn't sure if the subcommittee members had a chance to check their email. So, and I know they had asked me at the end of the meeting. So we are all set to get to work, and from here on in, we will be presenting to the entire committee the information we have learned and the discussions we have had. But today, as it was the organizing meeting, and so unless someone has questions, that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for that update. Is there any specific recommendation that you need from this committee that needs to go before the board on behalf of the subcommittee? Or that? And I anticipate that you'll send me a report from your committee, but as far as for the respect of this committee, is there anything that you need, recommendations or suggestions that you need?
Not at this time, thank you, but I'm sure we will have a lot starting the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll have the updates from Chief of Equity Wellness.
Thank you. And what I just want to spend a few minutes going through real quickly. Yesterday, the board received an update on the strategic plan work going on with the school district. As you may or may not know, our strategic plan basically sunset last year. Obviously, during COVID, a lot of things kind of got out of whack. But we were in process of redeveloping a new strategic plan. Some of you may have participated and provided feedback in some previous meetings last year. Due to a number of changes superintendents, et cetera, we're working to get that work back on track. You can watch the full workshop online where we house and archive our school board meetings. But I just want to give you an update on some of the themes and where the district has landed. But our goal is hopefully by the end of the school year is that we'll have a pretty good draft of potentially where we're headed as a school district. Let me just drill down. This is just, originally when we put the surveys out online, we had over 30,000 respondents. And on this presentation that you find online, there was a breakdown of how people responded. And one of the questions really had them look at top 5 priorities from a list of 19 areas. And the results and how they came out.
It's large on there.
But what came out on top as a district from those respondents is mental health and social emotional wellness. So similar to some of the things that this group has brought up was a top priority, school safety, equity for all students, and then accelerating learning because of COVID, and what we just talked about, anti-bullying, right, being a priority. So those areas came out, and then if you look by groups, if it was employees who responded, parents, or students, you can see how they rated all these groups. So mental health, social emotional awareness came out top for all 3 groups, which I just thought was pretty interesting. Parents and students, school safety, et cetera. You can see what that breakdown looked like. Interesting, students did put, have anti-bullying in there as well. So from that, the district had already come up with a new mission statement. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on any of this. Educate, affirm, and inspire, and an equity embedded system. The equity embedded, I want to talk a little bit about that in just a moment. This is the vision. So moving forward, we really wanted to drill down what would, if we take our mission statement, educate, affirm, and inspire, last strategic plan, we had 4 goals that were very third grade reading. We had high school graduation, postgraduate completion work. So they're very targeted into a very confined space. We're looking at trying to expand that based on the feedback we're hearing. So if we heard, and even in today's discussion, we heard that, engagement and connectedness and bullying. So what does that look like? Attendance. And using other indicators out of some of those very limited. So we're looking at trying to expand some of those areas and expand the indicator. So this is more work to come forward. But then there basically came up with four themes around what this potential work might look like. And there's going to be a whole engagement process around getting feedback around this from the community. So student-centered culture. So sense of belonging, safety, and acceptance for all students. The same theme that we heard here today as being a priority for the district. Student voice, we heard that, right? And choice as part of that process. And customer service towards, our stakeholders, right? Students, caregivers, community at large. A second theme, academic excellence acceleration. So here, kind of your traditional, what you would think about, our primary business around educating students academically. Also, and this has been a priority for some of our board members, creating that portrait of a graduate. So it's kind of, and this may or may not fit in this particular theme, but essentially, what do we want all students to graduate? What do we want them to look like, right? What do we expect? And there's a whole process in developing a portrait of a graduate. And then equitable participation in programs, access to accelerating student learning, kind of that whole thing. And then the mental health and wellness. So we heard that as a big theme. So what does that support look like for both the students as well as our employees? What does that look like? And how do we expand and enhance what we're currently doing? We've made a lot of progress in this area thanks to funding through the referendum. How do we continue to support that and address this issue that we know is a priority? And then the last one, committed and impactful employees. So how do we develop our employees to be sure that they're delivering the best work that they can do, no matter what their role is in the district? And, we're the largest employer in Palm Beach County, so human capital is critical that we work with our staff. And how do we work through a performance management system that provides that support to our employees to be the best that they can be? So we went through and kind of drafted that out as a leadership team with the superintendent and a consultant that we're working with. And then we kind of talked a little bit about equity embedded system and what does that look like. So one point, equity was kind of out as it's in a solo place where, it was its own theme. The concern, and my personal concern too, it doesn't just sit over here in my office or with Janina, right? So everybody has to own equity and what that means throughout the entire system, whether you're a bus driver, you work in the cafeteria, or if you're a teacher or principal, et cetera. So how do we embed and define clearly, especially with this word equity being under fire politically, how do we define it very clearly so people understand what that means in the context of these different themes? So if we're talking about mental health or school, student-centered culture, how do we clearly define what that means if equity is happening? Does that mean all kids feel safe and not afraid to come to school, right? What we talked about earlier. So really working to define what equity embedded would look like. In addition, we hadn't done this in the past. We're adding some student input sessions that actually occurring right now as we speak. So, these are happening today and tomorrow around our consultant and some of the district team going out to our schools, and we worked with our school principals and our regional office to identify students for getting feedback from them of what they want to see around those themes. So there's a whole process our consultant's working with to get that student input. A little feedback from the board that we're missing maybe potentially some communities, so we may look at expanding that. But it is a starting point. So those meetings are the next steps. And then a community engagement thought exchange will occur through April 6th. So look for more information to also so that you're able to provide input and voice. And then April 13th, there will be another update to the board around this particular work. So I just wanted you to quickly see that. If you want to go onto the board, like I said, the archived meetings, you'll see more about this. But I think it was important for this group, especially the work that you're tasked with doing, to understand where we're at on that. And I know we're getting very short on time, so I'm going to go ahead. And then I think also in the near future, I think just unpacking legislation and the impact of so many bills that just make your head spin might be an opportunity to just for people to understand how things will evolve in education moving forward.
And as we can see that those the time frame, these updates, these community engagements will not happen. Will happen prior to our next April meeting. So I do employ this committee. It's not something that's going to come to this before this committee again. So I do employ the committee to really look out for these items, to participate with your respective agencies in these community exchanges as they come out as well. Cassandra? And attend that meeting, the community meeting. So as you're seeing what's going on with the students, as you see the feedback with the community exchange, speak on it. Attend the meeting. You don't. I will not be able to speak on behalf of the DDEC, but I intend to attend that April 13 workshop. I intend to be a public speaker and speaking on that agenda item about, you know, what I've learned in our community or whatever workshop that I attend. So I expect that the committee would do the same, and then we can all report back collectively at our next meeting our findings.
And then one real quick shout out.
Cassandra, I see you. Go ahead. You're recognized.
Do you want me to go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, real quick, thanks. 2 questions for you. I wasn't clear. The portrait of a student, do we have that now, or are we working on designing that?
So
that's my.
Let me tackle the portrait of a graduate. The portrait of a graduate is something that is currently being worked on between several different community members, right? So right now, what we do have with the portrait of graduate is the Coalition of Black Student Achievement has a draft of what a coalition of a portrait of a graduate should look like, right? But that's not what is exactly here. It's what they believe it should look like. And your agency might believe what a portrait of a graduate could look like. But collectively, we have something that could, at the Coalition of Black Student, which I'm also a member of, have, and we have a first draft. We're still cleaning it up. We anticipate in bringing it out in the community, and hopefully your respective agencies, so you can add on to it, or you can give feedback on, hey, I think this is a great idea. I think this is some things we should add. I think, whatever it is, but there has to be a starting point, and no one has started what that portrait of a graduate looked like. Well, everyone has started their own image of what it looked like, but Coalition of Black Student Achievement do have a full draft of what it currently looked like that will be coming out.
All right, so I'd like to be a part of that. I was on that committee as well at this point. And the Portrait of a Graduate is a national campaign, so there are some learnings too that we could gather from that. So that was that one thing. Thanks for that. The second thing is, Keith, I didn't see I don't remember the section, but there was a section about the employees. So my question is, I didn't see anything in there about hiring employees, anything about hiring. And so so I'm asking that because of one of the speakers were talking about having diverse teachers, blah blah blah. Same thing for African Americans as well. So wondering if that's going to be addressed in the strategic plan.
Yeah. So right now we're only kind of at the themes and some of the markers under those themes. So we're not at that point in development yet where we get down to the actual initiatives. But I can tell you it's definitely been part of conversation. How do we ensure a diverse workforce that represents the community, how we hire for that and train for that, et cetera. But we're not at that point, but it has been part of conversations?
I think, and also as yesterday's workshop, one of the things I think Mr. Bogus pointed out was, which I thought was great, was with this strategic plan as it is drafted here, it was the what that they presented to the community, and the how have not been put in yet, but it was first agreeing, hey, do you agree to the what? These are the whats. These are the themes that we will be focusing on. And so now we have the what, and we have everybody nodding yes to the what. Now we can focus on those hows and the different ways of engaging, even including that retention piece, the how part. So I thought that was great because a lot of people weren't agreeing originally on the what. So I think we're at a point where everybody is on that what, and now we can move forward to the how.
Yeah. And then just real quick shout, International Spanish Academies. Some of you are familiar with that. They're our ESA programs. They're having their symposium tonight at John I. Leonard High School. It starts at 6 o'clock. For anybody who is interested, it's pretty phenomenal what those kids do.
I would like to make a motion for us to extend the meeting 10 minutes to 12:10.
There might be another one coming in.
None of me. Do
Yeah.
we have a second?
Second.
Any objections? Thank you.
That concludes.
That concludes Mr. Oswald's updates. At this time, we will move forward to unfinished and new business. The next month board agenda, I include this every month. I was made aware that the board members were not receiving the board report. I have been asked by board members that the board report is sent to them, so I will. I thought when I sent it out to staff that it goes. All of that information get posted how I send it, and it goes. But that's not the case. So I think just to clarify that procedure, when I send the agenda, the minutes, and the board report, if I will send it if the group agrees with it and there's no comments. When we send that information out again the week before, if we can please send it to the board so they also have that time to review my board report and as well. If we can please. And then once it's completed, the board report to be attached to the actual board docs.
Attaching it to board?
To board docs, yeah.
Yes.
As written.
Yes.
Once we approve it, once it's good.
The recommendation she speaks to when she comes to the meetings.
Yes.
To the board meeting.
Because they're all written out. I don't speak free. I can't do that.
Good job.
Thank you.
Representing us.
Thank you. The future updates, future agenda topics. I know we have some agenda topics that we will be discussing that we've just approved. April, we'll have the feedback from Safe School. I'm sorry, May. We will have the feedback from Safe Schools. Next month is April. April. Are there any additional feedback that we would that will come before us in May as well? I just kind of want to tailor out 2 months in advance. We can kind of wait as well to the April meeting. But for next month, I would like. I know we're short on time. I would like to understand what measures. Hearing all of the things that's come into place, whether it's the book ban, whether it's the curriculum and resources. I would like for our staff to bring us back what measures are in place to prevent the book banning in Palm Beach County schools, whether it's in the media center, the classroom. What procedures have we put in place? How are we identifying those books? Are we just going with what the media is saying, or do we already have books and we've reading books, and what are we doing? Because with the new bills that have passed, there are certain things that's in that bill that concerns me, and there are things that we don't. There are new things. There are things that says how the selection should be processed, and how board members would have to approve certain selections. So, I know this all just happened, but also that deadline and those dates are July of this year. Currently is July 2022. I believe it's July 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, that certain things have to be put in place that the language says immediately, right? So I just want to know the measures are in place to prevent book banning, selections of resources, all of these things. So we know that this was some bills that we did not agree with. However, this is what it is. It has passed, and it is now going into statute, and it's going to be part of statute. What is the process if someone complains about a book? If someone complains about a book that's in a media center or classroom, if we already have those procedures, I'm asking that we bring those back.
I don't think we're going to have that for April, because we've had procedures in the past based on legislation, but now just unpacking.
Okay.
You got the Parent Bill of Rights, then you have other things that you talked about books and approval process. There's so many different things.
Can we have that in May? Can we have an update of what we're doing at least? Whether it's
some of them, I don't know if they're even all signed yet. So, and then.
So can at least at the minimum in April, is there a way that we can have what do we currently have in place? And then we can take that back and digest it and make an update of whatever staff is doing, and maybe by June meeting, because it needs to be approved. It need to be in place in July, so you only have April, May, and June. So I just want the district diversity.
And not atypical in the summer where we're running around chickens with our heads cut off trying to get things up and running. So, a lot of that work will be ongoing. I mean, I can bring what we have. But I can understand it's going to be very draft, and I'll talk with, Dr. Sheffield and see where they're at.
Right. What I just like, if something have to be brought out, and there are some things that and I'm intentionally reading these statutes and these bills. There are some things that DOE wants right away. There are some things that they want 2 years. There are things that they want months from here. So what are those things, focusing on those things that they want in July, what are those things so we can have a diversity and equity lens on those things that we're sending up to DOE? It's not just the aftermath that this committee gets and say, hey guys, we had to hurry up and get it to June. So I'm just trying to be proactive. Like, hey, can we take a look on what you're doing? If it's not done, maybe we can start helping to get it done. But I just would love for us to have a equity lens, because you have this committee, this advisory committee. So I'm just saying, use us. Use our lens, use our input. And some things, of course, you're not going to be able to get our input on. You're going to have to send right away, right? But I just would like for us to have, hey, are there anything in place? That could be an email. That can be between now and next meeting. If there is currently anything in place, send us an email and say, here are the things that's in place. And here are the things we have to work on. It's going to be some time, but just that communication for this committee to also be involved is all I'm asking for. And then the last thing is a follow-up on the bills that were passed and how they will impact all those bills that were recently passed, how they will impact our students and what we are doing. What we be doing, what we are going to be doing. What we have done, what we've already put in place. We're on it. Hey, these bills, we knew they were coming. We already started working on it. These work we have on place. This is what we're working on, and this is what we need help on working on if we need the help. And that's all I have, those 3 areas. Emmy?
Absolutely. This is Emmy Kenny. The 3 bills that I see having the biggest impact on students and teachers and school districts are HB 7, HB 1467, and HB 1557. So I will...
1557.
Yeah. 1467 and 1557, and HB 7. I'm getting tons of questions from my community, from teachers, from asking me what they can and can't do now, how things will change, from students asking me, how this is going to impact them as well. And so if we can get some answers from the district, we can relay that information to our communities. And likewise, we can. A lot of this bill language is very vague, intentionally vague, and I think that leaves room for us to really clarify what the district policies are now, because I know the district has to review a lot of policies and with these new statutes in mind. So I think the Diversity and Equity Committee should absolutely have a voice in that. And I will just say that although the bills have not been signed yet, they become law within 14 days, whether the governor signs them or not. And there's absolutely no reason to believe that he's going to veto any of them. So we can start working on it right away.
The last one that I had was progress monitoring. I know that is the new standards, and one of the greatest concerns, again, yesterday I talked about communication, I talked about transparency. This is not a district thing. However, as we receive those information, and at this point I'm wearing that PTA hat and those parent and those teachers, and as we receive those informations, don't wait till, I'm asking that we funnel that information to those parents and funnel the information to the teachers, because we see a lot of dialogue on this extra credit Palm Beach schools on Facebook pages. We see a lot of dialogue on all types of social media, in articles, and a lot of speculations and optics. But what we struggle with here at the district is we struggle with that communication and clarifying what we're doing here and getting that information out. We do it in the public, in a meeting. We do it at the school board meetings. We do it here at DDEC. But the public is was driving the narratives of the media, writing these articles. So what we, get that information out to our communities. PMP, the writing coaches, they're saying, well, there is no writing component to this. That's not a district information, but hey, we understand, we're working with it, and as we receive that information, we're funneling it down to not only the teachers, because the teachers, not only the parents, but the teachers as well. The teachers should not learn information when the parents are learning information. Administration should not learn information when the parents are learning information or when the media put it out, and you guys are aware of certain things. I just say share that information and be, and just share it with the community, share it with the committees, share it with everyone, the parents, the teachers, so that everyone knows, like, hey, this is all we know for now. And the things that we are working on at the district, what we have control over, because we're not doing a good job telling what we have control over. So when the parents come screaming and putting input on social media, I see it, and I'm sure that the district see it as well. And that's all I have. Progress monitoring, following up on bills that were passed and how they will impact our students, what the district is doing about it, what is the process if someone complains about, books and instructional, because it's not just books, it's instructional materials, it's curriculum, it's everything. It's not just a book banning.
And that's to your point. And I think, as Amy said, there's a lot of meetings that have to occur with legal, unpacking the policies, figure out where we even stand as a district and internally, where we sometimes disagree internally, let alone where we're going to go out publicly. So just that stuff is messy. It takes lots of meetings, and there's so many of them. I mean, there's school safety. There's so many outside of those are definitely three big ones, and there's many others. We talked about the school safety one. The updates are happening there. So
right, and I understand, but I also think this is priority as well.
And as a leadership team, in fact, we're trying to just divvy out who's going to own which pieces so that we can kind of attack all of these strategically, because we're all stretched trying to work through those and with our legal team. But I will bring forth what we have.
Thank you. Any objections to these updates? And like I said, these updates might not be a full-blown update. It might not be something concrete, but at least we're staying in the loop with communication of what we're doing. Any objections, any additions, any comments? Hearing none. Anything?
If I can make just a quick comment.
Yep.
It's something that just happened in Georgia with the school board, where a mother was reading out of a book that was in the library of the school and was explicit sex description. And the board told her, no, shut up because there are people. I'm sorry. The board told her, no, you have to shut up because there are minors listening here. He said, but the book is available in the library. And this is what the school is providing. So I'm thinking what you were saying about the reaction, what, do we have to get to that point before we can stop and understand what is available? So I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah. Because elementary school right now, when that thing go effective immediately, you guys monthly you have to produce, a list of books of all the books in the media center. So that's something right now you could be working on, communicating with media centers right now. Hey, all the books that you have, start working on that list. Start working on, these are things that we could just start working on. That's all I have. Do I have a motion to adjourn? It is 12:10. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Pagan.
Second.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Sandra. Sorry, I didn't see the. Sorry, I'm not looking at the agenda or anything. But was this where we were going to see if we can add another agency to the committee next pregnant?
I do apologize. I did not. That is. I apologize with the. I apologize. So there has been. It's totally missed on this agenda, and I apologize, Ms. Cassandra. So if you guys can please just entertain me for an additional 2 minutes, if we can have the motion to extend time by 5 minutes. Motion to extend time by 5 minutes, Mr. Pagan, second by Emmy. Any objections? And it'll be very brief. We have several agencies that are currently vacant on the District Diversity and Equity Committee. And this is a conversation we'll be having with legal as well offline to address that, not necessarily taking anyone off of agencies, taking anyone off of the committee, but certainly trying to identify the reasons behind them attending these meetings. And there is a agency that has come before us who is interested in serving on the DDEC. It's Connected to Greatness. Cassandra is a PTA leader, but I know she can speak to this agency. So I will give the floor to Cassandra if you would like to share about Connected to Greatness and go from there.
Could I just make one comment before she does that? Because we don't get to decide that as the committee. It's in the bylaws that those organizations are set by school board members. So no matter how much we might want a committee or not want an organization, we don't have any say in that.
We're not saying about who wants to be on the committee. We have, according to policy, we have to hear it out. According to policy, the committee, if an agency is not attending, we do have in policy that they would be non-voting members. As far as removal to two agencies that are not, they're dissolved.
I understand that, because this has come up a number of times before you all were involved. We've dealt with this over the years a number of times, but we as a committee cannot add.
We're not adding. We're hearing an agency who would like to be added, and this agency may align with an agency that has been dissolved. So the only thing we can do is we can give that information to the board and say, yes, as a recommendation. Okay. So I'm just here listening to the agency that would like to be added that may be significant to the agency that was dissolved. That's it. We can't add them, but we can certainly listen to them and say, hey, the agency came before us, and that agency, agency B has dissolved. Agency 1 has now come before us and said that they have that same representative and they would like to entertain it. It's up to the board. It's not up to us.
Who was the agency that was dissolved?
Haitian Solidarity has dissolved.
Okay. So that's what we just need to know.
Yes, so Haitian Solidarity has dissolved, and they dealt with the Haitian community. They dealt with Haitian youth. So now this agency is Connected to Greatness. And go ahead, Ms. Cassandra. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll only take like a couple minutes here. So the organization is Connected to Greatness, and our focus is on empowering and inspiring African American Black male students to be change makers and leaders in the world. And so we have been working with several schools and youth and their families and we have African American Black men as the mentors, which we actually call them. And they support with the social and emotional wellness of our students, as well as supporting them with day-to-day life, right? Just really supporting them. Also include our activities as well. So we'll leave it at their information. Have connect to greatness.com. But again, our focus is African.
You're cutting in and out now, Cassandra.
So I'm sorry. I know I'm on the road. I'm sorry. So our focus is African American, students, middle school, and high school. So we will entertain elementary, fifth grade.
Can we maybe add this to the agenda for next month? Because, it's like, number one, we can't. Sorry, Cassandra, you're cutting out. So the little bit we heard sounds wonderful, but we couldn't really hear too much of what you were saying. And I think also the membership of this committee on whole is, we could probably have a discussion about that, like the ones that have never come and things like that. So
this is not regarding those who haven't come. That's why I'm not in. It's not the ones that come. It's the ones that come. We have one agency that has completely dissolved, and there's only speculation that the second agency dissolved, but I have not confirmed that. But one, they specifically said they are no longer an agency, and it's on ours. And so this also was the direction of legal of how to come about filling that. So that's any agency. There's been two. One of them said they're no longer interested, and this is the second agency that's come before. So the board, in talking to members of the board said, please find agencies alike or similar, or was doing some of the work that is similar for us to identify, the two differences. So that was something from members of the board who said to do that. And that's why when this agency, I mentioned it at a school board meeting, and this agency came forth, and this was the meeting that, they put it in writing to Sue, and so now we're here to allow them to, But Cassandra, if you can certainly put it in writing. I'm sorry, if you can share a little bit about Connected to Greatness in writing and send it to Sue, and Sue, through Stu, will get it, the committee will get it as well. Because
okay.
you're cutting in and out.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, I'll send it.
No problem. And we will put it on the agenda, I promise, for April's meeting. Thank you so much, everyone. Meeting is adjourned at 12:17 p.m.